Welcome to our free learning university Next Generation. Today, we're diving into the incredible journey of Sony, the Japanese brand that transformed from a tiny post-war repair shop into a global tech and entertainment powerhouse. Imagine a Japan recovering from the ashes of World War II. Cities were in ruins, industries were broken, and hope seemed distant. Yet, in that time of despair, a small group of dreamers dared to believe they could create something extraordinary. This is not just a story about a company. It's about vision, resilience, and innovation that changed the world. The story begins in Tokyo, 1946. Japan was under Allied occupation. Industries were shattered, and technology was scarce. But a brilliant engineer named Masaru Ibuka saw opportunity in chaos. Ibuka was a visionary, an innovator who believed Japan could rebuild itself through technology. Alongside him was Akio Morita, a young physicist with a sharp business mind and an unstoppable passion for science. Together, Ibuka and Morita founded a tiny company called Tokyo Shishin Kogyo, which translates to Tokyo Telecommunications Engineering Corporation. Their starting capital, only $530. Their workspace, a burned-out department store building in Nihonbashi, Tokyo. They didn't have much, no advanced machinery, no global connections, and no guarantee of success. But they had something far more powerful, a shared dream to innovate. In the early days, the company's first job was simple yet crucial. They repaired radios, a basic but essential service for a nation trying to reconnect with the world. Radios were lifelines of information, and as they repaired these devices, Ibuka began experimenting. He wasn't satisfied with fixing old technology. He wanted to create new technology. Meanwhile, Morita handled the business side. He understood that Japan's future depended on rebuilding not just factories, but trust. People needed to believe in Japanese technology again. So, he started laying the foundation for something bigger, a brand that would eventually stand shoulder to shoulder with the giants of the West. Their first product innovation was a rice cooker. Yes, not a radio or a TV, but this cooker was a flop. It didn't cook rice well at all, and it was a commercial failure. Many entrepreneurs might have given up after such a shaky start. But not Ibuka and Morita. They saw failure as a stepping stone, not a dead end. The team quickly pivoted. Their next major invention was a tape recorder, named the Type G. In 1950, this was a revolutionary device in Japan. Tape recorders were rare and mostly imported. By building their own version, Ibuka and his small team proved they could compete with global technology. Schools and companies started buying it, marking the company's first real success. But there was still a big problem. Their company name, Tokyo Shishin Kogyo, was too complicated for international markets. So when they decided to go global, they needed something short, catchy, and easy to pronounce. That's when they came up with Sony. The name was inspired by two words, Sonus Latin for sound and Sunny, a term used in America for young boys. Together, it represented a young, vibrant, sound-driven company, the perfect symbol of post-war Japanese energy. By the early 1950s, Sony had grown from a handful of employees to a small but determined team. Their ambition was to compete not only in Japan, but worldwide, and in a country where people were still recovering from war. That was a bold vision, but Morita believed that Japan didn't need to follow. It could lead. One of Sony's most daring early moves was their decision to invest in transistor technology. At that time, American company Bell Labs had invented the transistor, but very few saw its potential. Most companies thought it was too small and too weak to replace bulky vacuum tubes. But Ibuka and Morita thought differently. They saw a future where electronics would be portable, efficient, and personal. So, in 1953, Morita traveled to the United States to negotiate with Bell Labs. He secured a license to use transistor technology, something no other Japanese company had done. This moment changed the course of Sony's destiny. Back in Japan, the Sony team worked tirelessly to create a transistor radio, a product that could fit in the palm of your hand. People thought they were crazy. Radios were supposed to be big pieces of furniture, not pocket-sized gadgets. But Sony wasn't just making a product. They were making a statement. Japan can innovate. In 1955, Sony launched the TR-55, Japan's first commercially produced transistor radio, and soon after, the TR-63 took the American market by storm. Teenagers loved it. For the first time, they could carry music wherever they went, on the bus, at the beach, anywhere. It was portable, affordable, and cool. This product redefined consumer electronics. It wasn't just about listening to music anymore. It was about experiencing freedom. Sony had just made its first major mark on the world stage. But what made Sony different from many other companies was its mindset. They didn't simply copy technology, they improved it. They studied the transistor and found ways to make it better. They focused on quality and innovation, values that would define Sony for decades to come. By the late 1950s, Sony's success with transistor radios gave them something priceless: credibility. And with credibility came opportunities. They started exporting more products to the US and Europe. And Akio Morita, ever the strategist, personally moved to New York to build relationships with American retailers and media. This was unheard of at the time. A Japanese executive moving to the US to build a brand. Morita understood that global success requires global presence. He didn't just want Sony to be a Japanese brand. He wanted it to be a world brand. And slowly but surely, Sony was becoming just that. But even in these early days, there were challenges. Japan's economy was fragile, technology was evolving fast, and competition was heating up. Big American companies dominated the electronics space. But instead of fearing competition, Sony used it as fuel. Their company culture became legendary. Small teams, bold ideas, and relentless pursuit of innovation. Every engineer was encouraged to think creatively, not just follow instructions. It was this culture that allowed Sony to leap ahead when others hesitated. One of Morita's most famous quotes from this period was, "We do not imitate, we lead." And that philosophy shaped every decision the company made. By 1960, just 14 years after its humble beginnings, Sony had transformed from a small repair shop into a symbol of Japan's post-war rebirth. It had offices in the US, international sales, and a growing product line, and they were just getting started. Sony's next big dream: television. At the time, TVs were big, expensive, and dominated by American and European manufacturers. But Sony wanted to bring its portable revolution to television as well. They believed the future of entertainment was not about massive devices sitting in living rooms. It was about making technology accessible to everyone. This was the spirit of Sony, dreaming bigger than their circumstances. From repairing radios in a burned-out building to competing with global tech giants, the company had already come a long way, but their journey to becoming an empire was just beginning. In the next part of this story, we'll explore how Sony took its boldest steps into television, revolutionized home entertainment, and cemented its place as a true global innovator. The year is 1960. Japan is rising from the rubble of war, its industries regaining strength. Round the world, a technological revolution is happening, and television is at its center. Families everywhere are gathering round bulky TV sets in their living rooms. But this market is dominated by American and European giants. Most Japanese companies don't even dare to compete. But Sony is not like most companies. Masaru Ibuka and Akio Morita see television not as an unreachable frontier, but as their next big opportunity. Their transistor radio success gave them the confidence to take on bigger challenges. And television, they believe, is the key to Sony becoming a truly global brand. While most TV sets are heavy, large, and expensive, Sony dreams of creating something different, a small, portable TV that ordinary people can afford. At the time, this idea seems crazy. Who would want a small TV when big, luxurious sets symbolize wealth and progress? But Sony isn't trying to follow the market. it's trying to create a new one. Sony's engineers work day and night, pushing the limits of technology. They experiment with transistors in ways no one else dares to. Their goal is to build a TV that is light, efficient, and easy to manufacture without compromising quality. Finally, in 1960, Sony launches the TV-8301, the world's first transistor television. This product is a turning point. While other companies are busy making bigger TVs, Sony introduces a smaller, portable model. The TV-8301 isn't cheap, but it's revolutionary. It shows the world that television doesn't have to be stuck in the living room. It can go anywhere. At first, sales are modest. People are skeptical, but Marita knows how to turn a product into a movement. He personally travels around the United States to demonstrate the TV to retailers and the media. He understands that the best way to sell innovation is to let people experience it. This bold move works. Slowly, interest grows, and Sony's name becomes synonymous with cutting-edge Japanese technology. The TV-8301 doesn't just make money, it earns Sony global respect. But this is just the beginning of Sony's television chapter. Their real breakthrough comes in 1968, when Sony introduces the Trinitron. The Trinitron is not just another TV, it is a technological masterpiece. At that time, color televisions are common, but they have major problems. Picture quality is poor, colors are unstable, and the sets are bulky. Sony's engineers, led by Ibuka, reinvent how a color TV works. They create a single gun, 3-electron beam system that produces brighter, sharper images than anything else on the market. The result is stunning. The Trinitron TV blows away its competition. When Sony unveils it, audiences are amazed at the clarity and color. Reviewers call it a leap forward. Sony doesn't just compete with the big players, it leapfrogs them. In 1969, the Trinitron hits the US market and becomes an instant hit. This single product redefines Sony's image from a promising Japanese company to a true global leader in electronics. Over the next 25 years, Trinitron becomes a household name, winning an Emmy Award for technology and selling more than 100 million units. Akio Morita, who now spends much of his time in the US, becomes Sony's public face. He builds relationships with American retailers, partners with distributors, and negotiates with television networks. His charm, fluency in English, and bold strategies help Sony penetrate markets that were once closed to Japanese companies, while the rest of Japan is known for cheap, mass-produced electronics. Morita positions Sony as a premium brand, a company that stands for quality and innovation. He wants Sony products to sit on the same shelves as American and European brands, not below them. This strategy works brilliantly. By the early 1970s, Sony's televisions are selling in huge numbers around the world, and Sony is no longer seen as the Japanese underdog. It's seen as a technology leader. But Sony doesn't stop there. While other companies are content with televisions, Sony continues to innovate aggressively. Morita and Ibuka believe that technology should become part of people's daily lives. They don't just want to make products, they want to shape lifestyles. Their next frontier is personal audio. In the mid-1970s, Sony's engineers start experimenting with portable music. The idea is simple yet revolutionary. What if people could listen to high-quality music anywhere they go, without disturbing anyone else? This idea eventually leads to the creation of the Sony Walkman. But that's a story we'll dive into in part 3. For now, let's go back to the 1960s and early 1970s. These years are critical because they show Sony's evolution from a bold startup into a global innovator. The company achieves this through a combination of relentless product innovation, transistor TV, Trinitron smart global marketing, premium brand positioning, deep understanding of consumer needs. Sony's international expansion strategy is also unique. Unlike many companies that rely only on distributors, Sony builds its own overseas subsidiaries. This means they can control branding, pricing, and marketing. Sony America. Sony Europe, and other branches grow rapidly. Morita's leadership plays a big role. He believes that Japanese companies should think globally and not just export products. He wants Sony to shape global culture. He once famously said, "We must be a global company, not just a Japanese company." To make this vision real, Sony starts investing in manufacturing plants abroad. It builds factories in the US and Europe, creating jobs and strengthening relationships with foreign governments. This move not only lowers costs, but also builds trust and acceptance for Sony products in global markets. Meanwhile, Sony continues to dominate innovation in Japan. In the early 1970s, the Trinitron evolves with larger screens, improved clarity, and better energy efficiency. This constant improvement keeps Sony ahead of competitors like RCA, Zenith, and Philips. But perhaps the most important thing Sony achieves during this era is identity. By the mid-1970s, Sony ain't just another electronics manufacturer. It's a symbol of modernity, of sleek design, and of reliable Japanese engineering. Owning a Sony TV means owning a piece of the future. However, Sony's leaders know that technology alone isn't enough to build an empire. Markets change fast, trends shift, new challengers emerge. So instead of celebrating their TV success forever, Sony begins planning its next revolution behind the scenes. Ibuka and Morita encourage their engineers to experiment with smaller devices, personal electronics, and new forms of entertainment. They want to create technology that people don't just use, they love. And it's this thinking that leads Sony to its next golden age, the era of the Walkman, home video, and eventually PlayStation. But before we get there, it's important to understand just how crucial the television era was for Sony. It gave the company the financial strength, global presence, and brand reputation it needed to take bigger risks. This era taught Sony a powerful lesson. Innovation isn't about following the market, it's about leading it. By the late 1970s, Sony has already earned global respect for its televisions and audio equipment. The Trinitron TV was not just a product, it was a statement of innovation. But inside the company, co-founders Akio Morita and Masaru Ibuka are restless. They know that technology moves fast, and companies that stay still get left behind. Morita has a simple but revolutionary idea. He wants to make music truly personal. At the time, portable music is limited to big, clunky cassette recorders and home stereo systems. If you want to listen to your favorite song, you have to be in your living room or carry around a heavy machine. One day, Ibuka walks into Morita's office with an idea. He wants a small, lightweight device that can play music with headphones. No speakers, no recording features, just pure playback. Something people can use while walking, exercising, or traveling. At first, many Sony executives think the idea is risky. Why would anyone buy a tape player that can't record? But Ibuka and Morita see something the others don't. Emotion. They're not just selling a gadget, they're creating a new way to experience music. Sony's engineers get to work. They take an existing cassette recorder, remove the recording head, remove the bulky speaker, and replace it with a simple, elegant headphone jack. They refine the design over and over, making it smaller, lighter, and more beautiful. Finally, in 1979, Sony launches the TPSL-2 Walkman, the world's first truly portable music player. It's light, sleek, and comes with a pair of high-quality headphones. It also has a hotline button that lets you lower the music and talk to someone without taking the headphones off. The marketing team is unsure at first, but Morita has a bold plan. Instead of focusing on technical specs, Sony will sell a lifestyle. Billboards and TV commercials show young people walking, dancing, and enjoying music outdoors. Sony coins the slogan, "The music is yours." The result is explosive. Within the first few months, the Walkman becomes a global phenomenon. Young people love it because it gives them freedom. They can carry their music anywhere. It's stylish, aspirational, and emotionally powerful. Sony sells over 30,000 units in the first 2 months in Japan alone. Soon, demand spreads to the US, Europe, and beyond. The Walkman creates something new, personal music culture. For the first time in history, music isn't tied to a place, it travels with you. The Walkman doesn't just make money, it reshapes culture. Joggers run with it, students study with it, travelers escape noisy cities by putting on headphones. A blue and silver box with orange foam AirPods becomes a cultural icon of the 1980s. Akio Morita himself plays a big role in this success. He personally pushes marketing campaigns abroad, making sure the Walkman becomes a global symbol of youth and freedom. He insists that the product should have the same name, Walkman, worldwide. Many advisors suggest changing the name for English-speaking markets, but Morita refuses. He believes a single name will make it instantly recognizable. He's right. In just a few years, the Walkman sells millions of units, dominating portable audio worldwide. By the late 1980s, more than 50 million Walkmans are in use. It's not just a gadget, it's a lifestyle statement. Sony also keeps innovating. They release smaller, lighter, and more advanced models year after year. Some have better sound, some add new features, and some experiment with new formats like minidisc. Sony becomes the undisputed king of portable music. But the Walkman era does more than generate profits. It cements Sony's image as a creative and emotional technology company. Unlike many competitors who focus only on hardware, Sony understands how to shape consumer experience. They don't just sell electronics, they sell moments, emotions, and identity. This innovation also fuels Sony's global expansion. Walkman plants are set up in different countries. Sony opens more offices abroad, in the US, Europe, and Asia. The Walkman becomes a symbol of Japanese innovation. Other companies try to copy the idea, but Sony's quality, design, and marketing power keep it ahead of everyone else. By the mid-1980s, the word Walkman becomes synonymous with portable music, just like Xerox for photocopying or Google for search. But Sony ain't done. While the Walkman dominates the audio world, another technological revolution is quietly approaching: home video. In the 1970s, people watch movies in theaters or wait for them to air on TV. But the idea of watching movies at home whenever you want is starting to grow. Several companies see this opportunity. Sony decides it wants to lead this new era. Sony develops the Betamax system, a home video cassette format. Launched in 1975, Betamax is technically superior to competitors. The image quality is better, the tape is smaller, and the build quality is excellent. Morita and Ibuka are confident it will dominate the home video market just like the Walkman dominated audio. At first, Betamax does well in Japan and starts gaining attention abroad. But then, Sony faces its first major global battle. JVC, a rival company, introduces VHS, another video format. VHS tapes are slightly larger and of lower quality, but they have a key advantage: longer recording time. Consumers can record full movies or TV shows on a single tape, something Betamax can't match at first. Sony makes a critical mistake. Instead of licensing Betamax technology widely to other companies, they keep it mostly exclusive. JVC, on the other hand, licenses VHS to dozens of manufacturers, flooding the market. Soon, VHS becomes cheaper and more available. This becomes known as the format war. Despite having the better product, Sony loses the home video battle. By the mid-1980s, VHS dominates the global market, and Betamax slowly fades into the background. For Sony, this is a painful lesson. It shows that technology alone isn't enough to win. Strategy, partnerships, and timing are just as important. But to Sony's credit, they don't let this setback stop them. The company continues to innovate in other areas, using its strength in audio and video to stay ahead. During this time, Sony also begins expanding its brand ecosystem. The Walkman makes people love Sony, TVs, and audio systems make them trust Sony. Even though Betamax fails to beat VHS, it gives Sony experience in global competition. By the late 1980s, Sony stands at a crossroads. It's a global tech leader, but it knows it must evolve to stay relevant. Moriter, always forward-thinking, decides that Sony must go beyond hardware. He wants Sony to not just make devices, but also control content, the music, movies, and entertainment people consume. This is a radical idea for a hardware company at the time, but it sets the stage for Sony's next big move, Hollywood. In 1989, Sony makes a bold decision. It acquires Columbia Pictures, one of the biggest movie studios in the world, for $3.4 billion. This move shocks the industry. A Japanese electronics company owning a Hollywood studio? Many people doubt it will work, but Moriter believes that owning content will strengthen Sony's hardware business. The acquisition gives Sony access to a massive library of movies and TV shows. It allows them to create synergy between content and technology. For example, Sony can sell its TVs and home video systems with exclusive content from its own studio. This hardware plus content model is ahead of its time, something companies like Apple and Disney will adopt decades later. The late 1980s and early 1990s mark a new chapter for Sony. The Walkman continues to thrive, but now Sony is positioning itself as an entertainment powerhouse. It's not just about making gadgets anymore. It's about shaping culture. Through all of this, Moriter remains a global ambassador for Sony. He travels the world, builds relationships, and gives interviews where he talks about innovation, globalization, and the power of technology to unite people. His leadership and vision make Sony not just a company, but a symbol of a new, connected world. But Sony's story is far from over. As the 1990s arrive, new opportunities are about to explode. Gaming, digital media, and the internet. And Sony, with its strong brand and innovative spirit, is ready to jump in. By the early 1990s, Sony has already changed the way the world listens to music, watches TV, and enjoys entertainment. The Walkman defined portable music. Trinitron ruled the television world. Columbia Pictures brought Sony into Hollywood. But now, a new revolution is on the horizon, the world of video games. At this point, gaming is dominated by companies like Nintendo and Sega. Sony is known for its electronics, not gaming. But behind the scenes, a decision is being made that will change Sony's destiny forever. The story begins with a partnership gone wrong. In the late 1980s, Nintendo approaches Sony to collaborate on a CD-based add-on for its Super Nintendo console. Sony's engineer Ken Kutaragi is leading the project. He's passionate about combining cutting-edge sound technology with gaming. But the partnership collapses unexpectedly. Nintendo backs out and signs a deal with Philips instead, leaving Sony hanging. Many companies would have simply moved on, but not Sony. Instead of giving up, Ken Kutaragi convinces Sony leadership to build their own gaming console. At first, many executives are skeptical. Sony has never made a game console before. Competing with Nintendo and Sega seems impossible. But Kutaragi and his team believe they can create something more powerful, more flexible, and more innovative. Sony's strength lies in its technology. They design a console built around CD-ROMs, which can hold far more data than cartridges. This means better graphics, longer games, and realistic sound. They also make the system developer-friendly, allowing game creators more freedom than Nintendo's strict rules. In 1994, Sony launches the PlayStation in Japan. In 1995, it arrives in North America and Europe, and within months, the gaming world is never the same again. The PlayStation isn't just a console, it's a cultural event. It looks sleek, futuristic, and cool. And like Nintendo, which focuses on family-friendly games, Sony targets young adults and teens. The ads are edgy, the music is modern, the tone is cool, not childish. Games like Tekken, Gran Turismo, Resident Evil, and Crash Bandicoot helped make the PlayStation a household name. Developers love the platform because they can experiment and create cinematic experiences. Players love it because it feels grown-up and powerful. By 1996, Sony has sold over 10 million PlayStations worldwide. By the end of the decade, that number reaches over 100 million units. It's a record-breaking success that turns Sony into one of the most important players in gaming. Ken Kutaragi becomes known as the father of PlayStation. His vision turns a broken partnership into a billion-dollar empire. The PlayStation helps Sony conquer a new generation of consumers, young people who grow up with their first console being a Sony product. But Sony doesn't stop at the PlayStation. In 2000, they released the PlayStation to PS2, and it becomes the best-selling console of all time with over 155 million units sold. It combines gaming with DVD playback, making it not just a console, but a complete entertainment system. This success cements Sony's role as a global leader in gaming. The brand that once made TVs and radios is now shaping digital entertainment for the world. Meanwhile, the digital revolution is changing everything. The internet is spreading fast. MP3 players, digital cameras, and new kinds of media are emerging. Sony has both opportunities and challenges. In 2001, Apple launches the iPod, beginning the decline of portable CD players. The Walkman era, which started in 1979, slowly comes to an end. Sony tries to fight back with its own digital music players, but Apple dominates this new field with its simple design and iTunes ecosystem. Sony also struggles with internal divisions. Its hardware, music, and movie divisions don't always work together smoothly. While other companies are moving fast, Sony sometimes moves too slowly. But even with these challenges, Sony remains a giant. Its TV business continues to innovate with flat-screen displays, HD technology, and Bravia TVs. The company also becomes a major player in digital cameras and professional imaging. And of course, PlayStation remains a crown jewel. The PS3 released in 2006 pushes Blu-ray technology, while the PS4 2013 and PS5 2020 dominate modern gaming with stunning graphics, powerful processors, and immersive experiences. Sony's PlayStation Network connects millions of players online, turning the brand into more than just a console. It becomes a global digital ecosystem. Meanwhile, Sony Pictures continues to produce massive films. Franchises like Spider-Man become box office hits, merging Sony's entertainment and technology power. Sony Music remains one of the world's largest music companies, home to countless famous artists. Throughout the 2000s and 2010s, Sony evolves from a hardware maker into a technology plus entertainment hybrid. The same company that once sold radios in post-war Japan now shapes the future of gaming, film, and music. But Sony's success story isn't just about products. It's also about resilience. They lost the format war with Betamax and came back stronger with the Walkman. They missed the early MP3 wave, but dominated gaming. They faced competition in TVs, but built a multi-billion-dollar entertainment empire. Sony adapts. Sony innovates. Sony survives. Even today, Sony remains one of the most respected and influential technology brands in the world. Its PlayStation 5 is one of the fastest-selling consoles in history. Sony's camera sensors power iPhones and other flagship phones. Its TVs and audio systems are globally trusted for quality. Its music and movie businesses keep influencing global culture. And behind it all is the legacy of two visionaries, Masaru Ibuka and Akio Morita, who in 1946 started a tiny company in a bombed-out building in Tokyo with one dream: to build technology that brings joy to people. That small company is now a global empire worth billions, employing thousands worldwide, and touching billions of lives through sound, image, and imagination. Sony's story proves something powerful. Innovation isn't about playing safe. Success comes from taking bold steps, and the most powerful brands are built overnight. They're built by visionaries who never stop dreaming. From transistor radios to Walkmans, From Trinitron TVs to PlayStations, from Tokyo to Hollywood, Sony didn't just follow trends, it created them.